day, one and all. Welcome, or as the case may be, welcome back to the wonderful world of Word 2016. My name is Dan McAllister, and I am your host today. We're stepping into Module 5, where the subjects of discussion will be creating interactive forms, tracking changes, and inserting document references. You will need practice files, and I recommend that you create a folder out on your desktop for our finished files. Let me just maneuver to my desktop. So you'll need to download the Word sample files. They will come in a zipped folder. You'll need to extract that folder, and I recommend putting it out on your desktop. And also I recommend creating a folder named Finished Word Documents. And very often in our lessons, we'll open a document from Word sample files, we'll manipulate it, and then I recommend using the Save As command to save the finished version into the Finished Word Documents folder. That way, if you need to, or if you just want to, you can go back to the Word sample files and have the originals to work with in case you want to practice something again. So, take a moment and make sure you've got practice files, create that Finished Word Documents folder out on your desktop, and we will get started with Module 5. To get started with Module 5, let us open a file named Phone Inquiry Form. So I'm sliding over here to Open Other Documents. I'm going to browse out to my Word sample files folder. Mine's out on the desktop. I've also made a little shortcut for it over here in my favorites area. And we're looking for one named Phone Inquiry Form on the alphabetized list. So Phone Inquiry Form. As it opens, it may open up in what's called the reading mode, and you may see something at the top that says you need to enable editing. And if you see that, go ahead and click on the button to enable editing, and then your screen should look like this. Take a moment and do that. Open up the file named Phone Inquiry Form, please. It should come in looking like. The idea of this Phone Inquiry Form is we work for a real estate office, and we want this available for our receptionist, so that when someone calls in and wants to talk to somebody about properties here, with our company named Burke Properties, we can set up a date, we can assign them to talk to an agent, we can catch the name of the person we're talking to on the phone, grab their phone number, give them some choices of property types to look for, pick out a price range, maybe more than one, required amenities, again, maybe more than one, and a big comments box down here. So that's what we're about to build. We're about to build an interactive form, everyone. So the first thing we should do is turn on something that's available in the ribbon, but it's not automatically installed. So we're going to go up and right-click anywhere in the ribbon. Literally any button in the ribbon, you're going to right-click on it. And in the pop-up menu that appears, click on Customize Ribbon. And then over here at the right-hand side are all the tabs that we normally have available. Home, Insert, Design, Home, Insert, Design. But there's one of these tabs that's available, just not installed just yet. It's called the Developer tab, and we're going to need it to create our interactive form. So let us check mark the Developer tab. And then down here at the bottom, you'll have to click on the Okie dokie button. And now you will have a new tab in there called the Developer tab, and when you click on it, it will look like this. So again, pause our video, catch up with me. What I did was right-click anywhere in the ribbon, customize said ribbon, turn on the checkbox for the Developer tab, OK that, and you should now see the Developer tab up here. Go ahead and click on it, and it should look like this. Catch up with me. Now this next step is not required, but it makes things a little bit easier to see and a little bit easier to work with when you're designing your form, and that's a button right here called Design Mode. So let's click to select the design mode. It should stay gray, and it will affect how things look on your form. It'll make them a little bit easier to work with. So when the receptionist answers the phone and someone on the phone says, I would like to make an appointment to talk to one of your agents about some properties, then we would want to record the date of the call, or maybe the date of the appointment that we're going to make. Maybe we'll call it the date of the appointment. So first thing I'm going to do is click just to the right of the colon next to the word date, and I recommend leave a little space there. I'm just tapping the space bar. And now I'd like to insert something called a date picker that will let our receptionist actually choose a date without having to type it in. She'll see a little mini calendar. So here comes our first, what's called a control. And the one that we're going to choose is right here. As you hover over it, you will see that it's called Date Picker. I can't see it right here because I'm zoomed in with my third-party software. but we're going for that little button right there. It's supposed to look like a little calendar. So I'm going to click on that. Here comes my date picker, and you'll see that it says click to tap or enter a date. And so we're not going to try to use it right now. We're just going to leave it sitting like that, and in a few minutes we'll go actually try it out. I recommend design form before you start testing it out. That's just my personal preference. All right, next I want to create a list of agents that are available on a pull-down list. So far all we did for the date was we clicked, we put a cursor there, we hit the space bar, and inserted a date picker. If you want to do that now, that's probably a good idea. Pause the video, put in your date picker, and then come on back and we'll pick up from there. And so now we're going to put in for the agent, we're going to make a lookup list, and we'll fill in the names of the agents so that our receptionist can choose the name of an agent quickly. So I'm clicking next to the cursor. So I'm clicking next to the colon after the word agent, I'm hitting the space bar, and I'm going to insert what's called a lookup list or a list box. So I'm hovering over the different choices up here. We got one called a combo box, got one called a drop-down list content control. That's the one I would like. That guy right there, the drop-down list content control. When I click on that, it puts in a little placeholder here, says choose an item, and then in order to put in the items from which they will choose, I'm going to need to look at the properties of this object. And one cool way to get to the properties is to right-click on this little, I don't know what to call it, a crescent over here at the edge, right-clicking on that, and then one of the choices on my pop-up menu is to set properties for this item. So I'm going to click on the properties. Why don't you take a moment and do that? So you're going to choose the list control, right-click on its border over here, and then on the pop-up menu, choose properties to get where I am. Take a moment and do that, please. Now, some of these properties we don't really need to fill in. For example, the title and the tag, our user is not going to see those. They're not really required. You can choose what color you want this thing to be. I'm not going to worry about that too much. But I would like to set it up so that my user can't accidentally delete this control. So let's put in a check mark that says control cannot be deleted. I don't want to check mark the one that says control cannot be edited, because I need them to be able to edit it. I need them to be able to choose from the list. And then last but certainly not least, we have to add the names of our agents, our sales agents that are available. So I'm looking for a way to add the names. Yeah, it seems likely I'm going to go over here and click on add, doesn't it? And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So far all I've done is checkmark content cannot be deleted. Now I'm going to start adding the names. So I click the add button, and it says display name, and as I fill in the display name, it will fill in the value to be the same thing. The only time that I would really use the value itself is if I'm going to be referring to it in a macro. So we'll fill in the display name for our first salesperson, and that will be Dizzy Gillespie. And then I'm going to click OK, and Dizzy appears in here. And now I'm going to add another one. We'll have, how about Charlie Parker? And I'm going to click on OK. By the way, notice OK has this blue box around it called the focus box. What that means is if you just hit the Enter key, it will choose the OK because it's got the focus box. So I don't really need to grab my mouse and click on OK. I can just finish typing Charlie Parker and hit the Enter key, and it will assume that I wanted to choose OK. All right, time to add at least one more here. How about trombonist J.J. Johnson? I'm picking these names out of famous jazz names. Trumpeter Dizzy Gillespie, alto sax player Charlie Parker, trombonist J.J. Johnson, and maybe that'll be enough. So take a moment and create your list. You don't have to use the same names as mine, but if you would like to, these are all relatively famous and unfortunately long passed away jazz artists. So remember, you have to click on Add to open up that window, and then type in the name and hit Enter or click OK, and then add some more. Add at least 3, and notice there's still going to be one here called Choose an Item. And the fact that it will be at the top means that's what will actually show up in here when they go through the form. So put the video on pause, catch up with me there, go to the properties. We want to make sure they can't delete the object here, and then put in some names by adding them. And when you're done, click OK, like I'm about to do. All right, welcome back. There is one property that I should set for my date picker here as well. So why don't we right click on its border, go to its properties again. Actually, you'll notice when I right clicked on the left crescent, I didn't get properties in my pop-up menu. So I'm going to go over to the right-hand side here and right-click on that one, and lo and behold, look, properties for this. And the only property I want to set here is that it can't be deleted. Again, I want them to be able to edit it. I want them to be able to pick a date in there. And also the other thing I have here is how do I want the date to look? Do I want the short date? Do I want it spelled out like the day of the week and all that kind of stuff? I'm just going to go with the short date. You can try a different one there if you would like. And then at the end of that, you're going to go down and click on the OK button, which is right now slightly off my screen, but the OK button does have the blue focus box around it. So when I hit the Enter key, it's the same as choosing OK. So do that. Set this property for the date picker, and notice when I right-click on the left side, I didn't get any properties. But when I right-clicked on the right side over here, I did get those properties. So take a moment and set that property so they can't accidentally delete that control. All right, time to move on here. So now we want to have a place to put in the client name. That is the person that's on the phone. Now, going into that, I'm not going to have a list of everybody who might call. So I'm not going to be able to use a list box. We're just going to have a box where they can type stuff in called a text box. So again, I'm going to click to place my insertion point just to the right of the colon. I choose to hit the space bar, and now I'm going to put in what's called a text box. Now there's two of them up here. They have an AA and another AA, and this is not about AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. This is about a rich text format box or a plain text format box. And we're going to go with the plain text. So I'm going to click on the plain text AA, and it drops it right there at the insertion point. And then I would like to set up properties of that. And of course, to do that, I'm going to go over here and right-click on the right side crescent and go to the properties of this control. So again, I would like to set it up so that they can't accidentally delete it. So I'm going to check mark the thing that says content control cannot be deleted. And one of the differences between a rich text format text box versus a plain text box is this checkbox right down here that says allow carriage returns multiple paragraphs. What that means is that they could actually type a name and hit the Enter key and type something else in there, like here's their name and here's what they do, or something like that. I don't really need that for this particular control, but if I had gone with the rich text format, I wouldn't even have that available. So for our purposes, all we're doing is protecting it so they can't delete it, and then click OK or hit the Enter key. All right, you do that. Catch up with me. All right, welcome back. We're going to put in a place for their phone number. And in this case, I think I'll just use a text box. So we're going to click right after phone, we're going to hit the space bar, and let's insert another text box and protect it so that they can't delete it. You know how to do that. So put the video on pause, do that. While you're doing that, I'll be doing that. It will be done as you come back to the video. All right, here's my property window. Content cannot be deleted. Okay, that. So everyone, I'm going to break this session right here just because it's getting kind of long. When we come back, we'll fill out the property type list box. We'll have some checkboxes here for price range and some checkboxes here for required amenities and a text box down here at the bottom. So I'm going to end this session and then come on back for the next one. We'll finish out this form. So the next content control we need is going to be another list box. That is this guy right here, the drop-down list content control. And then for the properties, we're going to want to protect it so they can't accidentally delete it. And we're going to give them a list of property types from which to choose. And that will be these property types: residential, commercial, and industrial. Those will be the choices that you will add to your drop-down list. So put the video on pause, go set that up. While you're doing it, I will be doing it in the background. So residential, commercial, and industrial property types. Have at it, everybody. So here's what your property should look like. Make sure that the content control can't be deleted. I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable there. It's not a control that's kind of content. It's the content control can't be deleted. And then here is what I added: residential, commercial, industrial, and okay that. All right, we've got a couple more things to do here, and then we'll be able to test out our form. So I would like to put in some check boxes here where they can choose one or more than one price range. And I would like to put the check boxes out here at about the 2-inch mark, which means I'm going to need a tab stop right there at the 2-inch mark. And if I'm going to have 3 lines with tab stops, then I need to select those 3 paragraphs first. And then a nice quick way to add a tab stop. Now you might be looking up here at the ruler and notice there are some tab stops up there already. Now if you were with us in an earlier lesson, we were talking about how you can set the tab stops and remove them, and there was a menu choice for doing it. Here's a nice easy way to remove tab stops that are there already. You simply grab them and drag them down right off the ruler. So these little L's up there, those are tab stops. Grab those, drag them down off the ruler. And then to place a left-aligned tab stop where we want it for these 3 paragraphs, just go up here and click right at the 2-inch mark, and you should get a left-aligned tab stop there, a little L. So take a moment, make sure you select all 3 of those paragraphs first, and then remove the tab stops by dragging them down, and then add a tab stop at the 2-inch mark by clicking on it. Your turn to catch up with me. Pause the video and do that. All right, now that we have the tab stops in there, we can place our check boxes. So I'm going to click to put my cursor right next to 100K or less. I'm going to hit the tab key. Oh look, it jumped to the 2-inch mark. And now I would like to put in a checkbox control. And here's one right here. Checkbox content control. I'm going to click on that, drops it right in there. As I hover over it, it says, insert a checkbox content control. This command is currently disabled because this document is opened in compatibility mode. So it goes on to tell us to use this feature: convert your document to a new file format by clicking the File tab and then clicking Convert. So if you've been watching our modules up through now, you've seen this happen already. It's relatively easy to do. We'll do just what it said. We're going to go over here to the File tab, clicking on that. And because we're in this compatibility mode, meaning the document was originally created in an older version of Word, then we do have this choice to convert it. So I'm going to click on Convert. It tells me your document will be upgraded to the newest file format. It's also going to destroy the original. Now maybe that's not a good thing in our case, because I've been trying not to destroy original documents. So here's what I would recommend doing for the moment. Let's cancel out of there. And why don't we take the document the way it is right now and save it to our finished documents folder. And then when we convert it, the problem here is it would destroy the original. So if we make a copy of it right now by using Save As to put it in our Finished Documents folder, then when we convert it, we are not destroying the original, and you could go back and do this whole thing again if you want to practice it later. So we're going to do 2 things here. We're going to do a Save As first, and then we'll convert it to the newer format. So that's what I'm about to do. I'm going to File and then Save As. And I want to drop it right in that same folder. Excuse me, I do not. I don't want to drop it in the same folder. I want to put it in the Finished Word Documents folder. We'll keep the same name. We'll click Save or hit the Enter key, since Save has the blue focus box on it. So it says we're about to upgrade to the newer file format. That's a good thing. Among other things, it'll make that checkbox content control available as I hit Enter or click OK. Right now, as I look up in the title bar, it does not say compatibility mode. So take a moment and do that. Do a Save As, make a copy of that in our Finished Documents folder, please. So we can see that when we did our Save As and made a copy of it in the Finished Items folder, it actually has updated it already. I don't see that compatibility mode up here anymore, which means we should now be able to use our checkboxes. So make sure that you have done the Save As command, put that in our Finished Documents folder, then come on back and let's put in a check mark right here now. So I'm putting in a checkbox right there at my insertion point, and then there aren't really any properties that I need to set up here other than I don't want them to be able to delete the checkbox. Now up until now I've had you right clicking on the right side little crescent here. Some of you may have noticed there is a properties button right up here in the developer tab of our ribbon. So that's just another way to get to the properties. I'm going to click on that right here, and I'm looking at the properties of this checkbox. And again, about the only thing I want to change here is make sure the content control can't be deleted. and then OK that. All right, my impossible mission for us. Your mission now, should you choose to accept it, is to put in 2 more of those checkboxes and make sure they can't be deleted. So I'm trying to click down here right below it, and my cursor is in the wrong place. I need to get it over the 2-inch mark. How am I going to do that? Oh yeah, I'm going to hit the Tab key to do that. So hit the Tab key and insert a checkbox there. Protect it so it can't be deleted. Do that one more time for the more than 200K. I'll be doing that in the background while you're doing that. When you come back, we'll all have those 3 checkboxes in there. Next thing we want are 3 checkboxes for the required amenities, only we'll just put the checkboxes over here at the left side this time. So I'm going to click to put my insertion point just to the left of air conditioning. I'm going to put in a checkbox. Going to look at its properties, make sure it can't be deleted. And do that 2 more times now for the fireplace and the swimming pool. Put the video on pause and go do that. So here's my property sheet for that checkbox that I put in next to swimming pool. Again, just make sure it can't be deleted, and OK. All right, one more piece to do here. I want to have a little text box, and maybe not so little, but I would like to have a text box down here where our receptionist can add in other comments, any other things that they need to record for our agent going into the meeting with our client that we're setting up here. So I choose to click to put my insertion point below comments or other. Otherwise, when I have my text box in here, when they're typing, if they type a lot, it'll word wrap, and I don't necessarily just want it to word wrap to here, which is what would happen if I put my insertion point at that spot. Instead, I'm going to put it down here, so if they're typing, it'll word wrap all the way over here to the margins. So that's where I'm going to put in my text box. We've done one of those before. So let's go with that plain text content control, because particularly in this box, we may need our receptionist to be able to type in a sentence, hit the enter key, type in something else, hit the enter key, and only the plain text is allowed to do that. So plain text control, gonna go for the properties, make sure they can't delete it, and this time let's also check mark that we want to allow them to hit the enter key and make carriage returns. Man, that is an old term. Carriage returns comes from old style typewriters. So I'm going to allow carriage returns, and I want to make sure they can't accidentally delete this content control. And OK that. Your turn. Set those up. All right, we've basically got this thing set up the way we want it. Let's now save it in its present form. Now, earlier we did a save as, so we made a copy of it to go into our finished documents folder. Now we're simply going to update that file, so I don't need another save as, I don't need a convert or anything like that. We're just going to go up and tell it to save it. Control S, File, Save, click the little floppy disk icon up in the upper left corner that you can't see on my screen. So save the latest version of this thing. So in our next session, we're going to try this form out. So I always recommend that you build the form before you try it, and then you save it, and then you can go try it out, and then to make sure that you're saving it without a whole bunch of stuff in there like dates filled in already, then you can always go back to the original. You can try it out and then just not save it after you've tried it because you've got it all set up right now. So that's what we'll be doing in the next module. It is now time to test out our form. And for this, we should step out of the design mode. So let's go up and click on design mode to step out of the design mode. And you'll see that the little placeholders and the little crescents on the ends of them have disappeared. And now we can try out our stuff. So let's go click where it says date. Click or tap to enter a date. So I click. Here's a little pull down list arrow. I'm going to click on that. Here is my date picker. So this is going to set up when is the appointment going to be with the agent. Not necessarily today. So maybe we're going to set that up for a week ahead of time, next Friday, something like that. So I'm going to click on a date, and it drops it in there. Then it says agent, choose an item. I'm going to click on that. Another little pull down arrow. I'm going to choose one of these agents. Moving on, I'm going to go down and click on the next one, or maybe I'll just hit the tab key and have it jump down to the next one. It says click or tap here to enter text. So I'm going to click. I'm the receptionist right now, So I'm clicking in there, and then I'm going to start typing the name of the person who's calling. So maybe that's Ferd Burfall. Anybody who's old enough to remember Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In may remember that name, Ferd Burfall. Probably not. Probably not. I'm feeling really old right now. All right, phone number. Clicking in there. I'm going to put in their phone number, 555-1212. Maybe I need the area code in there. It's area code 510. So catch up with me there for a moment. Try those things out. All right, let's keep going. So now I have checkboxes here, and I can choose one, or I can choose more than one, or I can leave them all empty. So maybe the person I'm talking to on the phone can't really afford anything more than 200K, but they would like to look at properties that are 200K or less. And let's see, they would like to have a swimming pool. Probably not for 200K. They would like to have air conditioning. And when it gets too cold, they'd like to have a fireplace. And then there's a box down here about comments and other, and I'm going to click in there, and I can type stuff. So I was hoping to have one with a great school district, or I need at least 1,800 square feet, something like that. So feel free to type stuff in there, and if you would like, type something and then hit the enter key and type something more. That was that carriage return allowed. So how about I would like to see, I need at least 1,800 square feet, enter key. I would also like to have a kitchen. So catch up with me there. Type a little something there and maybe hit the enter key to take advantage of your multiple carriage return. All right, the only thing left to do now is to save this document. But now if I click save, I will be destroying the original that didn't have any names in it. So I'm going to want to use a save as to change the name. And so I definitely want to put this in my finished documents folder, and using save as, maybe I'd like to name it Ferd Burfall Appointment Form, because that's the name of the customer that has called. So I'm going to do a file, save as. I'm going to make sure I put it in my finished Word documents folder, and we'll call it the Ferd Burfall and his friend Fanny Farkle. Ferd Burfall Property Request Form, or whatever would be appropriate for your purposes. So that's how to use this document the first time. And then the next time somebody calls and they want to make an appointment, then our receptionist can call up the unfinished, that is the unfilled in version of our phone inquiry form, and then fill that in with new names and so forth. So let's take just a moment and do that. Let's go to the File menu and open a fresh copy of our phone inquiry form. So I'm going to go open a file. I'm going to browse. I'm going to head to my sample files folder so I can get back to the original. And I'm looking for the phone inquiry form. And because we were careful about saving it along the way, it does not have a bunch of names in it. It just has all of the different places where we can type stuff in there. So here we have one form filled in for the Ferd Burfall call, and we've saved that document for Ferd Burfall, and then I want to set it up for the next person who calls. So I'm going to go to my File tab, going to click on Open, I'm going to browse, I'm going to be careful to go to my finished Word documents folder and open up the phone inquiry form from there. And notice as you do that, it has the placeholders for entering dates and names, but not the actual names of Dizzy Gillespie and Ferd Burfall and all of that. Now, in our next session, we're going to try to protect this document so that our data entry person can't accidentally mess up anything up here. So that's what we're going to do in our next session. We're going to protect this document so that all they can do is fill in the form fields themselves. So I'm ending this session. Come on back for the next one, y'all. So we have our form all set up the way we want it, but we don't want our data entry person, our receptionist, to accidentally click up here and type somebody's name in where we don't want them typing stuff. So I would like to protect this document so that all they can do is fill in the form fields. So in order to do that, we're going to go up here to the Review tab, one and all. Let's click on Review to produce the Review ribbon. And then over here towards the right-hand side, we've got a button labeled Protect. And again, depending on the screen resolution of your screen, you might be able to see more choices under there. In my case, I have to click the little pull-down arrow. And then I get a couple of choices here: block authors, which is grayed out, and restrict editing, which is what I want to do. Limit how much others can edit and format in this document. So I'm going to go click on Restrict Editing, and that opens up a little window pane over here at the side. So catch up with me, put the video on pause. I had gone up here to the Review tab, I clicked on Protect, I clicked on Restrict Editing, and that opened up this little task panel over here at the right-hand side. So pause the video, join me there. So I'm going to widen this left side panel just a little bit. There's this little border here that you can grab, get a two-headed arrow and widen it out a little bit. So I've got several ways that I can protect this thing. Limit formatting to a selection of styles. No, that's not quite what I want to do here. Allow only this type of editing to the document, and then there's a little list arrow. So I'm going to say, all right, allow only this type of editing, and if I just stop right there, then they won't be able to make any changes to it at all. I've just made it a read-only document. Now, for some kind of documents, maybe that's what I want, but in this case, I need my receptionist to be able to fill it in. So I'm going to click in the box that says no changes, and then I see several other choices in there. Let me zoom in on them. So tracked changes, we'll be talking about track changes in a few minutes here, not in this particular session. Limit them to only being able to add comments. Well, we haven't talked about comments yet either, but here's a great choice right here. Limit them to only filling in forms. That would be perfect for this one. So that's what we're going to choose. Allow only this type of editing, and this type is going to be filling in the forms. And then the next thing I'll do is click Yes, start enforcing the protection. So catch up with me there. Allow only this type of editing, filling in forms. All right, it's time for us to start enforcing protection. When we do that, you'll see a little window here that would allow you to enter a password. And as you type in the password, you're just going to see dots. So like most times when you're filling in a password, when you're setting up a password at least, you would have to type it twice. Now, what's the worst part about putting in a password on anything? Yeah, it's remembering your own password. And then I got to get on the internet and try to find some 12-year-old who knows how to get around passwords or something like that. So for this first one, I'm not actually going to enter a password. If you would like to try it, what the heck, I'm going to put in a password. I'll put it way too simple. I would never do this one in real life. I'm going to make it 1, 2, 3, 4. And notice you can't see those characters, you just see the dots. And that's largely why in an instant like this, they make you re-enter it to make sure you typed it the way you thought you typed it. And if I don't type it the same way the second time, I try to click on OK. It says, nope, gotta go back and do that. They didn't match. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And in the second one, George Washington. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. I click OK. This time it has no complaints. And sometimes I need to be able to get in here and make edits to the form. Maybe I did something wrong, or I'm realizing I need to add another field that I had never thought of. So eventually I would like to be able to stop the protection. And when I do that, it'll ask me for the password and so forth. Now, when our receptionist opens this document, I don't want the receptionist to see this little panel here. So I'm going to close that. And then I'm pretty much ready to save this. Now, let's just see it in action. If I try to go over here and click and phone and type something, it won't let me. It'll let me type stuff in the form fields, but that's all. I'm going to tap the backspace key and take that stuff out of there, and then click elsewhere so that it becomes blank again. So that's what we just protected. So catch up with me, finish protecting that, put in a password if you would like. So we're going to do one more thing to this, but put the video on pause and catch up with me on that part. All right, one last thing that I would like to add to this form to make it easier for my receptionist to use is when somebody calls on the phone, I don't want the receptionist to have to be stumbling around and going into this folder and grabbing their phone inquiry form. I would like to make it really easy to have the phone inquiry form pop up by saving it as a template. Now, those of you who have been looking at earlier lessons, we talked a bit about saving as a template, and it is actually a save as command. So that's what we're going to walk through right now, saving this form as a template. And that way, all the receptionist has to do is say, I'd like to make a new document. The templates appear. They choose the personal templates, and then they open the phone inquiry form because they won't have to look through a whole lot of documents that way. So here I go, saving this thing as a template. File menu, Save As, and I want to put it in my, well, I don't have to decide where to put it. So far I'm going to browse, and then down here it says it's ready to save this as a Word document. It also says it's about to save it in the finished Word documents, but that's going to change. So right down here in the bottom, when I say Save As Type, I'm going to switch it to a Word template. Then you'll notice it switches folders up here just automatically so that you will be putting this form in your custom Office templates. Now this one, the rejection letter, that came from an earlier lesson here. So that's going to be in my personal templates. And then this one, the new phone inquiry form, as a blank that's protected so they can't type wherever we don't want them to be able to type, is now going to become a template. So I'm going to finish that off by clicking Save. Your turn to do that. So that was File, Save As, click Browse. It doesn't really matter what folder you tell it to put it in. And then down here where you say Save It as a Word template, it will automatically put it in this magic folder. So I'm going to cancel out of there. You go catch up with me, save that thing as a template, and then we'll see how to try it out. So let's take a moment and close all the open documents. All right, now I am the receptionist and the phone rings and I'm talking to this person and they would like to make an appointment with one of our real estate agents here. So I'm going to open up Microsoft Word and it offers templates, but I don't see my personal template because I'm looking at the featured templates right now. To get to my personal templates, I need to go here, click on Personal, and then I'm going to open up my phone inquiry form. And it's ready to rock. And all I can do is fill in the fields. I am not allowed to change anything else because I've protected the document. And we can move from field to field to field as the receptionist and fill in what we need. So, your turn to do that. You're going to do a Save As. You're going to save it as a template. And then, here we are trying it out. We closed Word. Phone rings. Receptionist needs that template. She opens Word, goes to the personal templates, and she's in business. I don't know why I'm demanding that the receptionist be a woman. Just slipped into that when maybe I shouldn't have. So that's the ins and outs of creating a form, protecting the form, turning it into a template that's easy to find and easy to use. In our next session, we're going to switch gears totally. We're going to start talking about group writing tools. Sometimes I call it the industrial writing tools. Where we've got several people working on the same document, whether it is sending it around by email, or maybe we're putting it on the corporate SkyDrive, or maybe we're putting it in the SharePoint. We're not going to actually be doing that part just yet, but we're going to talk about how can we work together and make comments about a document and make changes that are tracked so that somebody can decide, do we want to keep these changes or reject them? So we're going to see several different levels of what I call industrial writing tools, starting in the next session. So for the moment, this is Dan McAllister signing off, finished talking about interactive forms. Our next several sessions here in Module 5 are going to be about reviewing tools, tools used for reviewing documents. So we'll start out with simple ones and then forward into more industrial strength. Group writing tools, sometimes I call them. So let's go get a practice file. I would like to open a file named Edit and Track Changes. So I'm going to go do that. You put the video on pause, do that as well. Again, that file is named Edit and Track Changes. So I'm scrolling down through my Word sample files, Edit and Track Changes, and I'm going to enable editing. All right, we're back talking about that company, Burke Properties, the real estate agents. So we're working through this document, and before we put it out on our website or whatever we're going to do with it, we need to run it by other people in the department. Maybe we need to run it by the legal department, make sure we're not putting anything in there that we, promises we can't keep. Need to run it by the boss once we've got the thing kind of worked out. So these will be group writing tools, and they may be that we're emailing a document around and one person makes changes and then is supposed to send it on down the chain to the next person, to the next person. Or it may be that we're storing it on the cloud somewhere. So we're going to start out with maybe the easiest one, called the highlighter tool. And it's available here under the home ribbon. This is it right here, the highlighter tool, and there's a couple of ways to use it. So here comes the first way. So I'm looking through this document that maybe somebody else wrote, and I want to look for things that need to be changed. And so maybe we want to say, instead of our professionals, maybe we should change that to some other word. So I'm going to, the first way I'm going to use my highlighter is I'm going to select a word, and then I'm going to go use the highlighter tool. Now it's available here in my quick formatting toolbar, or it's available up here in the font group under the Home tab. I'm going to click on the little pull down arrow. I see that there is a limited number of colors for my highlighter, and maybe I'll start with the yeller. So maybe within our company we have agreed ahead of time that anything marked in yellow is something we suggest be changed, and anything highlighted in red is something that we want to get rid of. So that was my first way to highlight something, dragging across a word and then clicking on the highlighter to highlight it. Here comes my second way. In this case, I'm not going to have anything pre-selected. I'm going to go up here and click on the pull down arrow for the different highlighter colors, and maybe I'll go with the fire engine red this time. And now as I move my mouse into the text, my mouse arrow has changed to an I-beam with a little picture of a highlighter. It's basically that symbol right there has taken over my mouse. I guess you can't see it when I use my third-party zooming software. So now that I have this in my hand, anything I paint with it now will turn red. So maybe I'm thinking we need to take this sentence out of here for whatever reason. Our relocation team is committed to blah, blah, blah. So with this highlighter in my hand, I am now dragging to select maybe that sentence, and when I let go, oh look, it turns red. And then anything else that I want totally removed, like maybe I don't need to refer to the abbreviation of the national referral roster, so I'm thinking, hey, we'll take that out of there as well, and I'm marking things that need to be removed. Now, either I have to go into the email that this is attached to, where I'm sending it to the next person, and explain to them why I've highlighted these things, or again, maybe we have all decided ahead of time what each color stands for. Now, eventually, I've got this thing in my hand, and everything I touch with it is turning red. And then I'm realizing, oh, I marked a couple of things that I wish I hadn't marked. I would like to remove the highlighter from those. Well, I'm going to go back up here and click on the pull-down arrow for my highlighter, and you notice there is one called Stop Highlighting. All that means is the next time I select something, it's not going to turn red. But that didn't get rid of the redness that I already have in there. To get rid of the redness that I already have, I'm going to go back up to my highlighter tool, and I'm going to choose the no color highlighter, and then I can use it to drag across things to remove the highlighting. And I don't have to just drag across the little thing there. I can drag like this to choose a big area to unhighlight, essentially, is what that does. And then now I got to try to figure out how to get rid of the highlighter tool. I can either go up here and click on it to turn it off, or, as we talked about in an earlier lesson, when I've got the Format Painter Brush turned on, I can tap the Escape key to turn off the Format Painter Brush or the highlighter tool. So I'm going to tap the Escape key right now. All right, so I would like you to try that. And it doesn't have to be the exact same words that I marked in here, but I would like you to try out that highlighter, please. So the first way was you select text first, and then you click the highlighter and choose the color. The second way is you don't select any text first, you choose the color of the highlighter, and then you have the highlighter in your hand, and you can mark multiple things with it. And then to stop highlighting, you can tap the Escape key, or you can choose Stop Highlighting, or to then unhighlight something that's already highlighted, go up there and choose the No Color highlighter and drag across the thing that was highlighted, and it won't be highlighted anymore. So try that out. Try out our highlighter, everybody. Put the video on pause and try that bad boy out. All right, moving up the ladder of my industrial strength review tools, next thing I would like to talk about is adding comments. Now, comments in one way is a little bit like a highlighter with a sticky note attached. And when a comment has been added into a document, you will see a little speech balloon over at the side here. So I did not add the comment that you're seeing here. It was in the document when we opened it. So I'd like you to watch me here. I'm going to go over and click on the little speech balloon. As I hover, it says See Comments. As I click on it, it highlights the area that the comment is about. And then it's really going to be hard for you to read what's going on down here. I'll zoom in on it, but it'll be easier to read it on your own screen when you're doing it. So it's got the initials of somebody who made this comment. And it says, I think we should delete this sentence and add information explaining our customer commitment. So that one's better than just the highlighter because it explains why you highlighted it, essentially. So try that out. Go over and click on the little speech balloon and see what the comment says, and then we'll talk about, so how could we add comments of our own? Pause the video, check out the comment. All right, so now to talk about how could we add a comment of our own. Maybe rather than highlight this thing in red to signify that we should get rid of it, maybe I'm going to unhighlight it. So I'm going to go up and get my no color highlighter, drag over that thing so it's not highlighted anymore, and then I'll add a comment to it. So adding the comments will take place under the Review tab. So I'm going to go up here and click on the Review tab, and I saw a choice in here about Add a New Comment. So first I should select the thing that I'm commenting on. And again, maybe that's this thing about our relocation team is committed, etc., etc. Right now I've still got the highlighter in my hand, so I'm going to tap the escape key to get rid of that. And instead, I'm going to insert a new comment. So I go up and I click on New Comment. Actually, I should do that in a slightly different order. I should select the text that I want to comment on, then I'm going to go up here and click on New Comment. And you'll see that it kind of highlights it here. And then over here on the left-hand side, it says, all right, this is Dan Mack making a comment here, and I'm going to enter that we should remove this sentence. And I'm not necessarily suggesting anything to put in its place, but that's my comment. And notice it has my name attached to that. So any place where comments have been added, you will see them over here in this left side comments pane. And if I click on one of them, it'll actually go to the place where that comment was made. And I can see what the comment is, or I can go over and click on the little speech balloon and see what the comment is over there. So that's our second level of the industrial review tools, is comments. So again, you don't have to make the comments in the same exact place I did, but try it out. You select text first, go to the Review tab, click on New Comment. That will open up the pane over here, and you can type in your comment and your name will be attached to that. Pause the video and try out the comments. So I'm going to close the revisions pane so that I can see the document again. And then when I click away, then any place where we've made comments, you should see the little speech balloons over there. I'd like to add a couple of things about the comments here before I move on. Maybe I'd like to set it up so that I don't have to go click on this little speech balloon to actually see the comment. So there is a button up here in the review section, in the comment section of the review ribbon, that says Show the Comments. And if I click on that, then it opens up a little side panel here to show the various comments. And then if I turn that off, it hides them again, and all I see is the speech balloon. Now, sometimes I'm showing those comments, or I'm going in and clicking on the speech balloons to see the comments. So let's say that somebody's looking through the comments and they disagree with one of them, and they'd like to make a comment about that comment, like, oh, I disagree, I think we should do this instead. So one of the ways to do that is go click in the speech balloon, and then there's a little button right here. And if I click on that, it opens up a comment about the comment. And so now this is me making a comment about their comment to say make sure all the current affiliations are included. And then maybe I've got a suggestion of what affiliations we're talking about, where I could say, don't forget the Justice League of America accreditation. So now I've made a comment about the comment. And if I choose to show the comments, then out here, I will see both of them. Here's the original comment, and then here's a comment about the comment. That's different than these two. These two was one comment about this section and one comment about that section. They're not about the same thing. Therefore, the second one isn't indented the way this one is. This indentation signifies that this is a comment about that comment. The non-indentation here means those are two separate comments that are collinear, shall we say. They're about something on the same lines as each other. Also, eventually, if I need to delete, maybe I put in a comment and I realize, oh, that's not really right. I want to remove my own comment. You can actually remove somebody else's comment this way as well, but I'm going to be nice. I'm going to talk about removing my own comment. I'm going to click on my comment, and then I can go up here and delete it. So now it's not got the little highlighter in there, and it's not got my little speech balloon, and it's not showing it over here in the side pane about showing the comments, and I'm going to hide them again. So that's how you can remove comments, hopefully your own, or make comments on other people's comments, and then somebody gets to decide which of you is right. So that's our second level of industrial review tools. First was the highlighter, second is the comments. In the next section, I'm going to climb the ladder to the next level of the industrial review tools called tracking changes. So come on back and check that one out, everybody. Tracking changes comes next. We've been talking about the first couple of levels of what I call the industrial writing review tools. That was the highlights and the comments. What I'd like to talk about next is we're sending this document around and people want to suggest changes, but instead of just making comments about the changes, maybe they could actually make the change themselves. But I, as the owner of the document, would like to know what it used to be and where they made a change. Right now, imagine we're sending this thing around and somebody looks at this and they want to change one of these words here. Burke Properties is a privately owned company. Maybe I want to change that to corporation. And right now, somebody can go in there right now and get rid of the word company, and I won't know that. And they can fill in the word corporation. And I, as the owner of this document, don't know that somebody just made that change. So wouldn't it be handy if there was some way that I could keep track of what things used to say and what they've been changed to, and eventually either myself or maybe there's going to be a committee that makes these choices can decide, do we want to keep the original or do we want to keep the change that's been made? So that's called tracked changes. First thing I'm going to do is undo that thing I just did, so a couple of Control-Z's to put the word back in there. And then let's see how this would act differently if I turn on this button right up here called Track Changes. So I'm going to click on that to turn it on. And then I'm going to go up and make another change here. So I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm going to select the word company and I'm going to delete it. I'm tapping the delete key right now. And I see a little red marker over here. And then I'm going to add another word instead. How about corporation? And another little space there. Okay, so right now the only clue that I have that anybody made a change is this little red marker over here. And if I hover over that red marker, it says Show Tracked Changes. And when I click on it, I can actually see two things right in there. Let me zoom in with my third-party zooming software. I can see a strike through on the old word that used to be there, and then I can see an underscore under the thing that's been added in there. And in fact, if I hover over it, I can see who made that change and when. That's going to be really handy for one of these kind of documents that we're sending around, getting everybody's opinion on. Instead of just making comments, they can actually make the change, but they can't do it in a way that I can't tell they did it. Unless they go turn off the button called Track Changes. Well, there is something we can do about that. I'm not necessarily going to do it right now. For the moment, I'm going to turn off Track Changes. You're just going to watch here for a second. And you may remember that when we protected our document, restrict editing, allow only this type of editing, there is a choice in there about only allow them to make tracked changes. So this is probably something I would do before I send the document around to everybody. Set it up here so all they can do is put in track changes, and then maybe put in a password so that they can't necessarily remove that restricted editing. So I'm not going to do that right now, but very often that would be the next step I would take, is to set this thing up so all they can do is make track changes, and that way they can't go in and turn off the track changes button, maybe without knowing the password. So I'm just going to step out of that for a moment. I'm not going to fulfill that, but I just wanted to mention that that's available. And then if I want to put that back so that it's not cluttering up my screen with all of this stuff just yet, I can go up here where it says all markup and click on a little pull down arrow and change it to something called simple markup, which was the original setting. That's the one that just makes a little red mark over there, and somebody has to know that they go hover over the red mark to be able to see the track changes. Okay, so I still want the track changes turned on. So it's your turn to do that. Turn on the track changes, go in and select a word, delete it, and then type another word in its place. Make sure you leave spaces where they're supposed to be left around the words. And then to see what the changes look like, you can go click on this little red marker to show the track changes. That changes it from simple markup to all markup. And then I can actually see strike throughs for things that have been removed and underscores for things that have been added. And as you hover, you should be able to see your name in there. All right, so put the video on pause, catch me up with the track changes. So it made one marking in here for the word you got rid of and another marking for the word that you added. And we did that in 2 steps. But you don't have to do it in 2 steps. You could actually do it in 1. So for example, maybe I want to change these words that say the network to say this association. So this time, instead of selecting it and deleting it and then typing it, I'm just going to select it and type right over top of it. So I'm replacing the network with this association. And because I have the all markup setting, I can actually see what I just did. I didn't do it in 2 steps. I didn't delete this in 1 step and then add this in another step, but notice it treated it as though I had. And the reason it does that is eventually somebody has to come in and decide, do we like the fact that they deleted this? If not, I'll keep it around. Do we like the fact that they added this? If so, I'll keep it around, or in either case, I can get rid of it. So take a moment and do that. And again, it doesn't have to be done in exactly the same place I'm doing it, but if you want, feel free to do what I did there. So that was just our next level of track changes. We don't have to do it in 2 steps. You can do it in 1 step. It treats it as 2 steps. So put the video on pause and do another track change, maybe a couple of them somewhere. So that's how to put in tracked changes. And I'd also like to make a little notification about this area right up here where it says all markup. And earlier we saw that you could have something called simple markup, where you just see the red marks, but you don't actually see the change. I should mention a couple other choices up there. So here's what all markup looked like. Now when you show all markup, it does a couple of things. For the track changes, we see the strike throughs and the insertions with the underscores. Another thing I see over here is something about a comment. So here was a word that was highlighted, and then right next to that I see these little letters here, DM3. That's who made that comment. Now if I go with simple markup, then I don't see the track changes, and I also don't see like who made the comment about Nationwide. If I hover over it, all of a sudden it changes color and I see, oh, there's a comment there. I might stumble across that kind of by mistake. Or if I go out here and actually click on the speech balloon, then we've seen this part before. So when I'm telling it to show all markup, not only does it show me the stuff about track changes, but it shows me the comments and who made them without me having to look over here in the side panel. But there's a couple other choices under this pull-down list, and I've actually seen people get in trouble with this. So the real way that this is used is that in the end, somebody, or maybe more than one somebody, has to go through and make choices about which of these things are we keeping, which of these things are we throwing away. Maybe I want to get rid of the comments. We've made decisions about the comments, whether we agree with them or not agree with them, and so forth. And then we send this thing out to the client. I'm afraid I've heard this story about 5 or 6 times now from my various students. There's a couple of choices up here. One of them says no markup. So right now, notice it used to say the network, now it's ready to say this association. If I switch over here to no markup, then I can see the change. I can't see the original anymore, and I can't see any notification that any track changes have happened. No little red